Hi, I just wanted to do a little video about meningitis, and um, I probably should preface this with some kind of disclaimer to say that I'm not a doctor. Anyway, fuck that. I'm just going to talk about homeopathy and how it can help. Um, so, two people in my family in the last however many years have both had meningitis and been hospitalized, and it's been really, yeah, it's not a little thing. It's bad, but it's not so bad that you need to lose your shit. And especially if you have a homeopathic kit. It's a little rhyme for you there. Um, and the kits I recommend are one from Helios, which is a complete first aid kit, and then another one by Ainsworth's, which is also a first aid kit. And actually, the Ainsworth's one has more remedies. So if I were to be buying one today, no shade to Mary Aspinwall, who invented the kit, and she's amazing. She's like a freaking miracle of a homeopath, and so generous. But the Ainsworth's one just has a few more remedies. So I would say if you're going to get one, well, either. Anyway, the main remedy for meningitis, once it's kicked in, is apis. Apis is made from a bee, a bee, a bee sting. And if you kind of extrapolate, when you're stung by a bee, it's very painful, it's swollen, it's red, it's hot, it's throbbing, and the person has no thirst, which is an interesting keynote. So, apis is one to have. Belladonna, which I'm always banging on about. Every parent of children should have belladonna in the house. Even if you don't have a kit, make sure you've got belladonna, which is just amazing for any kind of fever, and swelling and redness and throbbing and all of those things that children get, like earache, tummy ache, whatever. So we've got apis, we've got belladonna, and then there are two more that I wanted to add to the mix. One is Baptisia. I don't know what Baptisia is made from, I can't remember. I think it's a flower, but anyway, that's not really relevant. But people that need Baptisia are, what's the word? They kind of look wild. They look bonkers, like you're like, oh God, what's going on? They look really ill. Hi, Molly. And so Baptisia is one to have. And then finally, Pyrogen, which Pyrogen was made by accident, because going across from some country to another country, some meat went off. It was rotten meat, and so in disease, what would require rotten meat, like as a like curing like, would be septicemia, which is blood poisoning. And when you have meningitis, active meningitis, and you're in the thick of it, your blood is poisoned, and your meninges, which is surrounding your brain, swells. So that's the itis, meningitis, and it's the sort of the cerebral spinal area. And so babies, for example, if they have meningitis, they can't lift up. Well, no one can lift up actually. This area at the back of the neck is so swollen. When you're lying down, the way to lift, or the way people lift up, is they kind of lead with their head. You can't do that. So you don't just do the glass test. I'll tell you about the glass test. If you have meningitis, you might also have this skin thing. I think it's called purpura, where the blood comes to the surface of the skin, and when you press it, when you press your skin and it goes white. Well, mine's so white anyway, I can't show you. But you press away the blood, and then there's a kind of mark where your finger is. With meningitis, when you press, the redness doesn't go. So what you do is you get a glass and you roll the glass across the skin like that, and then you press it, and if the redness stays there, the dots of red blood don't disappear from pressure, that's a bad sign. That means you've got some kind of blood poisoning. So always call 111 in this country. 999 is when you know you need an ambulance. 111 is when you're not sure and they assess you over the phone, and then if they think you need an ambulance, they send one. But meanwhile, while you're doing all of that, which takes about an hour, if you give apis, belladonna, and then depending on how things progress, Baptisia and Pyrogen. And I'll put the way to spell them in the notes underneath here. But before I go, I just really want to say, if you haven't kind of learnt the shenanigans of the powers that be by now, I mean, I'm old, so I've seen, I've got perspective, but say you're 30 and you've got a baby, you probably haven't really had enough time on the planet to see how things go and how any given situation is used to elicit a response that is what they were always going to do anyway. When I say what they, I mean the powers that be, the people that kind of run the ship, that decide what's happening. And they're not benevolent people. They might be really charming, Mr. Drop the Mic, Barack Obama, they might be charm personified, but actually behind the facade, they're really, really not charming. They're actually psychopaths, and they are driven by really evil intent. And so, sorry, I say these things as though they're a fact. In my head, they're a fact because for the last 15 years, I've been watching and reading and seeing. And so things like Nobody's Girl, the autobiography of Virginia Giuffre, she said about the whole Epstein Island thing, Barack Obama was one of the worst. He and oh God, what's the actor that everyone loves? Anyway, I can't remember his name, and I probably shouldn't say. But for her to say that he was one of the worst when she was raped from the age of 5 by her own father, there's her standard, and he's worse than that. So that has to tell you something that you need to pay attention to. And so many people just think, oh, we can't look at all this darkness, and if you look into the abyss, you become the abyss, and yada yada yada. Which I get that, I understand, but I also think if we carry on numbing out, drinking, drugging, watching telly to the point of never actually having a thought in our own heads and an ability to assess a situation with intelligence. I'm not saying I'm intelligent, but I'm really uneducated actually, but I've got this ability to see patterns, and apparently it's something homeopaths have. We can pattern recognize. So anyway, I don't want to talk about me at all. I'm just saying that when the newspapers all start screaming at you, you've got to see that they did that not that long ago with COVID, and they did it with Ukraine, and they did it with Iran, and they do it all the time. And what they want, I presume, is for us to all be kind of like Chicken Licken, running around screaming the sky's falling in. And maybe it is going to fall in, who knows, but I'm not going to be dying on my knees. I just know I'm going to die anyway, so I'm going to be autonomous and live the life that I want to live, and do what I want to do, and be good and be kind and help people. And I hate to see people falling out over all these details and, accusing each other of being Alex Jones fans or whatever he represents in the minds of regular people that read the mainstream or listen to the mainstream. I don't care about Alex Jones. I'm not interested in Alex Jones. I just want information so that I can make wise decisions based on, perspective and information that repeats, where you kind of go, oh, there goes my neighbour, where you see the same information happening over and over, but with a different colour each time, or a different coat on. Anyway, so apis, belladonna, have those anyway. They're amazing remedies. Baptisia, it saved my life before when I don't know what I had, but it was the worst migraine of my life. And then Pyrogen, which I think I did a video about that one when I had COVID. So for people that think COVID didn't exist and it was just flu, it really wasn't flu. And I don't want to argue with people, but I have patients. And so when patients come to me, I take the details of their case, and then when I have, say, 10 people that have all given me the details of their case, and then there's a pattern within those, it's called, oh, I can't think what it's called. There's a Latin name where you see the same symptoms. Anyway, it's not flu. So, and also I've had flu twice in my life, and I did think I was going to die. I really did, drama. And I had COVID, and I didn't think did I think I was going to die with COVID? I don't know, I probably always think I'm going to die. That's my default. But, sorry. But COVID was very different. There was a real physical thing to it where there was abdominal pain that I could not work out where it was coming from. It was almost like what's it called? Not peritoneum. The lining of your abdomen, which is like a sort of thin plasticky thing, it felt like that was really, really inflamed, and it was agonizing. And then I know with flu and colds you get loss of smell and loss of taste, but my loss of smell and taste came after I'd got over COVID and lasted for 6 months. That's called a strange, rare and peculiar. It's not a normal symptom of flu. Anyway, Mrs. Know-it-all here. I just wanted to give some helpful tips to particularly mums, because they're the ones that do all the freaking out for their children if they're at university or away from them and might be exposed to some kind of bacteria. And because kids at university are all just living on ginsters and beer, they're not getting their best nutrition. Anyway, I hope that helps someone. Take care, bye.